A couple of weeks ago, I published a film where I unboxed a Hammerhead Karoo Cycling Computer. Now, I'm not sure how useful films like that are, so today I'm actually going to do a proper review of the said Hammerhead Karoo Cycling Computer. So first things first, what is the Karoo and what makes it so special? Well, according to Hammerhead, the Karoo is the next generation of cycling computers and is unlike anything you've ever used before. Yes, it does all of the things you would expect from a GPS-enabled cycling computer to do, like track your location and measure your ride metrics, but it just does it all in a slightly different way. Existing cycling computers all have their own proprietary software, but the Karoo is Android based, so it's a lot more like a smartphone or a tablet. And just like smartphones or tablets, it's possible, in theory, to install lots of other apps on the Karoo. And because of the open nature of Android, it's even possible to develop these apps yourself if that's the sort of business that you're into. This is actually quite exciting, as these apps are yet to be invented and will potentially allow the Karoo to do all sorts of weird and wonderful things. When I published the unboxing film, a few people commented about the glitchy nature of the Karoo's software, but after a bit of investigation, I think this must have been earlier in its development, as the version running on this one appears to work just fine. As you would expect, the Karoo also has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth connectivity and ANT+ for pairing to your existing heart rate, speed, power and cadence sensors. It's touchscreen, but it also has a set of suitably chunky textured buttons that are conveniently staggered so that you don't end up pressing them all at once. As far as I've seen, the Karoo is available direct from Hammerhead via their website for around £300 or $400, so price-wise they're around the same as a comparable Garmin or Wahoo cycling computer. So that's the sales blurb, but what about the Karoo in the flesh? Well, when I opened the box, my first impression was that it was huge. I would say that it's easily 2, possibly even 3 times the size of my Garmin Edge 510. And as you would expect, it's also a lot heavier. Now for the weight weenies amongst us, that might be a bit of a deal breaker right there. But for me, a couple of 100 extra grams is never going to mean the difference between victory or failure in the Tour de France. The case is made from an aluminium titanium alloy, so it's pretty tough and durable. And the screen is made from what they're calling Gorilla Glass, so again, I would imagine that it's pretty tough. On the back is a very familiar Garmin quarter turn mount, but don't be fooled into thinking that you can use your existing out front mount. The Karoo is so much bigger, it may not have enough room. Fortunately, Hammerhead supply the Karoo with its own chunky out front mount. Pressing the smoother top left button switches the Karoo on. The screen is clear and bright, and the full colour HD graphics are pretty impressive. Even the startup animation is like nothing a Garmin or Wahoo could ever come close to matching. The touchscreen itself is very responsive. Dare I say it, slightly too responsive. But for the times when you're on the bike and wearing thick gloves, you can also use the textured buttons on the side of the case that I mentioned earlier. The most important one being the bottom right hand button. A long press returns you to the Karoo's home screen. The home screen itself is actually very simple. At the top you have a big yellow button to start your ride, while at the bottom you have 3 smaller icons where you can view your activities, enter the navigation feature and view your profiles. Scrolling left reveals a further 2 icons, one to pair and view your sensors and the other to view your various settings. If you're used to using a touchscreen smartphone or tablet, using the Karoo will be very intuitive, as it has all of the familiar features such as back buttons, a small on-screen keyboard, and even things like swiping left to delete. When I was doing my initial setup, I genuinely forgot that I was using a cycling computer and felt that I was actually using a smaller version of my iPhone. Yes, I know, that's not Android. I was impressed that the Karoo arrived 100% fully charged, which meant that I didn't have to wait to do all of the housekeeping stuff like connecting to Wi-Fi, firmware updates, and creating my Hammerhead account. Within a few minutes, I was fully up and running, and it was on to setting up my rider profile. It asked me some basic questions about name, age, weight and height, and also minimum and maximum heart rates to calculate the heart rate training zones. You can either select custom and use your own values, or simply go with their 5 standard zones. You can also set up your power zones here, but as I don't have a power meter, I skipped over this. While I was in settings, I also connected to my Strava account and then went into system units to select imperial or metric measurement. Me being the continental dandy that I am, I chose metric. Next, I set up my ride profiles. By default, you can have 3 types of data on screen: main, map and plot. For my main screen, I chose the numeric layout, which, as you can probably guess, is where all of your main ride metrics are displayed. I wanted the Karoo to mirror the fields I already had on my Garmin, so I selected 8. Choosing the exact metric for each box is very easy. Simply double tap, click the pencil icon, and you're presented with all of the metrics available. Once you've chosen, you can even move the fields around by simple drag and drop to position them exactly where you want them. You can even get a preview of what it will look like when you're actually cycling. On the main map screen, you can select a clean map or one that has a selection of ride metrics. Again, the choice of exactly how many and which ones are up to you. The plot screen gives you a live profile of the route that you're riding, so that you can see exactly how much further you have to suffer on a climb or enjoy on a descent, or even just be able to see what's coming up further down the road. Note, this function only works on a ride when you're following a route. Again, you can add a couple of ride metrics to this page, so I chose to have cadence and grade, as I find these the most useful when climbing. I've added a 4th page for my heart rate based on a plot layout. This displays the time I spend in the 5 various heart rate zones and is very useful if I want to know what sort of fitness I can benefit from that particular ride. If you want to add another page, simply click Add, and if you want to delete one, simply swipe left. For the navigation feature to work, I needed to download the appropriate map. Unlike many other cycling computers, all of Hammerhead's maps are completely free to download. You have 9.5 gigabytes of memory on the Karoo, which was more than enough for me to download the whole of the UK. But if you need more and find that you run out of space, you can simply erase the maps you don't need and replace them with the ones you do. Once you have a map installed, you can then either create a route with the Karoo itself or go onto your Hammerhead dashboard on a normal computer and make one there. Creating a route is once again very easy and intuitive, although perhaps not quite as flexible as I would have liked. Alternatively, you can also download a GPX file from, say, Strava and then upload that to your dashboard. Once it appears, there's no need to transfer it to your Karoo. As soon as it connects to Wi-Fi, the route is available and ready to use. Pretty clever stuff. Next, I installed the out front mount on my bike and paired my cadence, speed and heart rate sensors. Because I have more than one bike, I entered the ride screen and created a bike profile for my Cannondale. I then went back to the home screen and selected sensors. Many sensors these days are both Bluetooth and ANT+, and you can select and deselect on the Karoo which ones you want to use. Once you've decided, click the Add button and the Karoo will search. Once found, the sensor's information can be displayed. You can edit its name and even see how much battery life is remaining. The Karoo can even pair with some of the newer Di2 electronic gear systems and display your gearing information etc. as a page on the screen as you're riding. Unfortunately for me, the Di2 system on my Trek is not one of them. By now, I'm raring to go for a ride. Starting is easy. Simply click the big yellow ride button on the home screen, review the information to select your profile, route and bike, and then click View Ride to take you to your first ride profile page. When you actually start riding, press the top right hand textured button on the side of the case to set the Karoo recording. During your ride, you can scroll through the other ride profile pages by either swiping the touchscreen or using the textured button on the left of the case. When you finish your ride, press the top right button again and you can either save it, edit it or discard it. On my first ride, I thought the Karoo looked absolutely amazing on the bike. The screen was big, clear and bright. Scrolling through the profile pages was easy and I loved the responsiveness. One strange thing was that the Karoo does not make any sounds whatsoever. It's completely silent. You can pair it with a set of Bluetooth headphones, presumably for a future music app or possibly some kind of turn-by-turn voice navigation, but I personally gave up wearing headphones after a couple of near misses with cars because I didn't hear them. The battery life was okay but not great. I rode for 2 hours and the battery went from 100% down to 85%. Also, when you're actually out riding, the Karoo does not connect to your phone, so there are no text messages or call alerts, no live track function, and very importantly, there's no Strava live segment information. Furthermore, you won't be able to upload the ride to Strava until you connect to Wi-Fi again. This is potentially a slight issue for me, as I don't always start and end my rides at locations with Wi-Fi. For example, when I was in the hotel in Mallorca. In that instance, I would either have to go somewhere that did have Wi-Fi, or heavens forbid, wait until I got home before I could upload my rides. Now it does have a SIM card slot, so it might be possible to use that to connect, but I've also been experimenting with the Wi-Fi hotspot feature of my iPhone, where essentially it becomes its own router. Once you do have Wi-Fi though, uploading to Strava is easy and straightforward. You can even do some basic editing of your ride, such as name it and add a description right there on the Karoo before it uploads. In conclusion, I really like using the Karoo. It's easy to use, has a large clear full colour screen, loads of functionality, worked great and it looked amazing on the bike. It's got turn-by-turn navigation and shows you what sort of gradients you can expect. It also has some nice little features like having more information on the individual sensors and being able to edit your ride before you upload to Strava. It's not perfect, but on the plus side, all of the little negative points like slightly less than great battery life, not being connected while out on the road, and not having things like live track and live Strava segments may well be available in the future with firmware updates and new apps. Hammerhead themselves say that it's a powerful platform of continuous enhancement. It will never be finished, and they never want it to be. I personally am excited to see what the future holds for the Karoo. Thanks for watching.